Hello, my name is Frances Fox. Okay, why am I here? This is a chat that later gets turned into a podcast called Frances Fox News from Other Dimensions. And I am trained in all the psychic skills. I was in a secret government program that still hasn't been declassified. I know Clinton tried to declassify the program. And right after that, he appeared to have gotten set up having to do with Monica. I'm not saying that he didn't have anything to do with Monica, but those of us that were mind control victims and discussed the fact that we were happy that he appeared to be ready to declassify this mind control program, everything got shut down because of that happening in U.S. history. There may have been no link at all, or there may have been a link, I don't know. So what are we doing here today? The other day, I went through the history of Kansas because Kansas is the absolute center of the United States. And several times I have sketched the United States and it has black magic. And it turns out that that black magic has affected what the development of Kansas. The center is heart chakra, the heart center, the center of the chakra system, the center of the energy system, the center of life. With a closed heart, decisions are very different. And the state and the country had a closed heart from 280 years ago. And it ended up being the second state with the most prisons, the state with the toughest prison, and also the state that has an Air Force base where they have the Department of the Army, the intellectual center of the Army, which means that the Army would have done everything in the last 280 years with a closed heart. Certainly the mind control programs would fall under that description. By the way, the first thing that they would do in the mind control programs was to break your heart, was to position you so that you would do god-awful things. So I'm going to say one story now about the type of thing that was done when I was approximately 5 years old. I love animals. I just adore animals. So they had me play with little puppies, tiny little puppies, and they're so cute. Oh my God. I loved it. And then they said to me, this was in the military base in Germany. My father was U.S. military, even though he was Cuban born and was very Cuban. He supposedly was kind of enlisted. Supposedly he ended up on Ellis Island in New York because of bad behavior. We don't really know if this is accurate or not. And he ended up in the U.S. military. And of course, he had a lot of bad behavior. So he would have been a great person to put his kid, me, volunteer me in a mind control program, whatever. Part's not important. The point is that part of the thing was to break our hearts. So they had me play with these little baby puppies. And then they said to me, if you do not let this German Shepherd, they were always German Shepherds, this German Shepherd eat your feet, we're going to kill the baby puppies. Okay, I'm maybe 5 years old. So I have this decision to make. These baby puppies that I absolutely adore, that I had spent, I don't know what length of time I had spent playing with them and just loving them. And I had to decide whether they were going to live or die at 5 years of age. Whoa. And how did they manage that? What did they set up? We're talking about military men, very bright and very creative, closed heart, very mean. They hung me on some kind of a wall underneath my arm. I wouldn't be surprised that I don't get cancer there from this. And and then the German Shepherd was kind of like in a pit, I guess, lower than me. If I lifted up my knees, my feet would be lifted up and the German Shepherd could not eat my feet. at which time the babies would be saved. If I extended my legs and I just let them drop because I was hanging off this thing, then the German Shepherd would be able to eat my feet. Obvious, the decision I made. I have feet. And I actually don't remember if they killed the puppies in front of me. I would assume they would have, because they would have wanted to reinforce the trauma. That is the kind of thing that they would do to break the heart, which completely throws any human being off base. And then all the other stuff to kill your instincts of survival. And then everything that they did to make you incredibly loyal to your handler. And if you ever met your control also. Crazy stuff. So Kansas had black magic from 280 years ago that was done by Native American Indians because their land was taken from them, and there was a fort built on top of their land. That fort did not last long. So, but that's not the main part of the story. So the history of what happened in Kansas has affected the United States. By the way, one of the main programs for the mind control program that I was in was The Wizard of Oz, which has to do with Kansas. And that's interesting. Do not watch The Wizards of Oz if you think you might be anywhere near that, any kind of programming. It kind of makes you, did it happen or didn't it happen? Which is the whole mind control thing. Did it happen or didn't it happen? So I figured that we looked at the heart chakra of the United States because there was black magic on it. We didn't know it was a heart chakra when we identified that. It came out in a sketch. So I decided I wanted to do New York City because of what happened there the other day, where that the Cybertruck exploded in front of Trump Towers. And I believe they were trying to set up a wedge between Trump and Musk, and it turned out, because I do have what is for me a lot of money invested in Tesla, it ended up being a promo because the Cybertruck is exactly what Elon wanted it to be. And as I said last week, I would be really surprised if a zillion governments across the world did not immediately call Elon Musk and say, I want to order that for all my staff that I cannot afford to lose. So New York City, that's where we need to be. Years ago, I found out that New York City in Europe was referred to, we're talking New York City, years ago, we're not talking now. I cannot imagine what they call it today. They called it the city of hate. And when I've said that to people who live in New York or from the United States, they go, why would they do that? Well, I don't know, but not too far from the truth. A lot of the crimes that are being committed in the last 2 or 3 years are just so full of hate. And the damage that's done to the people that are being attacked is totally unnecessary. You want to hurt somebody? Fine. Hit them over the head. Stick them with a knife. Kill them. Shoot them. Okay, fine. You're sick. Okay, you did it. Why the need to make it something so god-awful? Obviously, very much influenced by not just spirits, but the really bad spirits. So my followers that are called mantristas, because basically the core of what we do is figuring out, working with mantras, and then observing the changes, which are incredibly positive because mantras liberate the mind. They liberate the mind strings, and the mind strings are what we use to create reality. String theory, except those scientists don't know that yet. They will, and they will be very irritated at how simple it is. So what is it that we found because somebody said, let's go clear New York because there's so much of the fire element in New York. And because every time I would sketch United States, and this was 2 or 3 years ago, I would always sketch all this blob of red on New York City. Plus, I think it was Los Angeles in California. Those were the 2 places that were full of the fire element. Give me a second. I need to pull myself together. Let me see if I sketch myself a second because I'm feeling very weird. By the way, this orchid Do you see what's the matter with it? I thought, oh my God, what did I do to my orchid? I didn't do anything to my orchid. You need to know that there are always symptoms when people are doing black magic. And one of them is plants die, appliances stop working, weird stuff happens, animals die. This, I thought maybe I didn't water it. It's watered and it's not overwatered. So black magic doesn't surprise me. Okay, so I'm going to sketch myself for a second. Somebody wants me to get off the intranet. I'm screwing up their plans. Get off the internet, and there's the arrow. I'm not getting off the internet, okay? It's my revenge to reveal this stuff and to call people on what they're doing and to stop them from doing it. Because honestly, if you have any kind of a heart, you would not want anybody to go through this. I don't want anybody else to go through this. So give me a second. Let me breathe into my root chakra. And let me get they're scrambling. Whoever it is that's doing this is really scrambling. They don't want another word having to do with anything, having to do with any of the mind control program or the politicians that behave poorly, etc. I have my path. Got it? And I'm staying on my path. I have no intentions of dying. Now I understand that because they did so much black magic to unalive me, now they're doing the black magic to make me suicidal. Well, I am depressed, but I was depressed before. And I'm not suicidal. And I'm totally aligned with my mission. I have no intentions of dying. So you cannot have a black magic affect you unless there's a part of you that also intends that. Such as when somebody does black magic on you to make you separate from your mate, and it works. There was a part of you that did want to didn't want to be with that person anymore. Maybe just subconscious. So no black magic will go against your free will. The problem is a lot of our desires and intentions are subconscious. So back to New York City. So we decided we were going to go in, the mantristas, 200, 300, 400 of us on a chat, underneath New York City to cool down the fire that I kept sketching, that red, excuse me. It was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. We couldn't make a dent on the amount of fire element that was under New York City. And I was like, I don't think we're going to be able to do this. And then my master said, just stay out of there. You cannot do this. Just stay out. And we returned about 6 months later to underneath New York City, and it was the same thing. We couldn't make a dent, and we were told just to let it go. So I looked up when New York City was incorporated, and it was January 1st, which is Capricorn. And Capricorn is an astrological sign, like Miami, Scorpio. I already told you about Scorpio and Miami and all the interesting things with politics having to do with Miami because Miami is Scorpio. And you should listen to that podcast, or you can see it on YouTube on both of my channels, the one in English, the one in Spanish. But I didn't know until a few minutes ago that New York City is a Capricorn city, the 1st of January. I don't remember the year, but I can tell you. No, I can't because I already shut it down. It was well over 100 years ago. So what is it about New York City? Why is there so much fire underneath? Because of all of the wiring that's underneath the city, all of the tunnels, all of the darkness that's underneath the city. New York City doesn't stand a chance unless there's some real creative, use of frequencies to balance off and to correct the frequency of the fire element. Everything has frequencies, and I'm getting a little bit more familiar with the language and a little bit less afraid of getting into the logistics of frequency. But underneath New York City was the issue. And then, of course, you have on top of the ground, you have every single office or home having many electronic devices, all of which radiate fire. And then you have the cell phone towers on top of the buildings. And now you have the 5G. All of that radiates fire. And you do not have enough earth element, which would be the trees and the grass and the ground, or the water element, which would be fountains and rivers and cascade, waterfalls. There we go with the bothering. So we have a city that is basically going to burn itself up, which it is, having to do with the level of violence. Excess fire creates violence. So why am I talking about this now? I don't really have a lot of information about New York City because I have not really wanted to get into it because we were told we would not be able to make a difference. But that was 2 years ago. Now, with what we know about frequencies and music, there is a chance, if this information can get out quickly enough and people become very creative, to use frequencies to offset it. But we're talking about underground. How do we get it there? I don't know, but I'm putting it out there because there are people that are more knowledgeable than I am, and they might be able to figure it out so that we can, I guess, save the path that New York City is on. I am at a place where I have understood that I cannot continue to talk about the bad stuff and the issues in arenas where it's totally overwhelmed with negativity, such as New York City. And I need to talk about the solutions because if not, people just shut down. So, what would be the solution in New York City having to do with frequencies that reduce fire? Most of our mantra music that you see here, that's on my Mantrista playlist, reduces fire. It either has the musical notes or the images that put out fire. How do we get that into the city? Because we can't lose New York City. It's too much representative of the United States. It would be a big blow. And there's millions of people living there, and there's gazillion companies. So I think I'm putting it out there to all of you to start to get creative, and you can start in your own homes. How do you get the sounds and the images into your homes so that your home has a frequency that is supportive of health and happiness, and not a frequency that gives you an excess fire that, according to shamanism, Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, means mental illness? Now, when this new age of Aquarius was discussed, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, it was known that there would be an augmentation in technology. And of course, there is. But it was also known that people don't know that there would be an augmentation of mental illness. People are not aware that that is one of the predictions for the age of Aquarius. So we have to do this not in order to be spiritually correct or to take care of the hate crimes. The mental illness is going to happen to everybody. It's not just going to be for homeless people and for people that had one foot mental illness anyway. We're talking about everybody. So whatever thoughts you have, concepts, possibilities, we need to get to work on it very, very quickly. Now, you can do something all of you that have people that you know that you love in New York, or that you love to travel to New York to shop or to go to the theater, you can get a map of New York, and I would extend it to like the state, but you can just do New York, or you could just do downtown New York. And I would pin it to a computer that would have one of our mantra music videos running 24/7. And you will be contributing to the purification and reduction of the fire element in New York City. I know it sounds silly, and I know it sounds like, come on, that's not going to do it. Actually, I'm going to tell you about an experiment I did last week, which basically is proof that we can do this in a way that's that simple. Transference of energy. Now, I'm going to, two examples. Do you see what I'm wearing now? Okay. If I take this off, the scarf, okay, you will see how much less full of light I look, how much darker everything looks, especially as the minutes go by. So I put this on, and you could say, well, yeah, that's the color. Yes, it is the color. Yes, it is. And color has a frequency which transfers. When you go to a church and you can't think about killing your sister-in-law, you just go into, you know what? I wonder what's the matter with her. Rather than, I'd love to kill her, or strangle her. The reason why your consciousness shifted is because of a transference of energy, of the energy that's in that church or that sacred place. It's a transference, but you can do it with something small. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go inside a church. You all, and I'm going to say it again, the story, because I really want you to take it in. Many years ago, I went to a conference on transpersonal psychology in Brazil. Dr. Stan Groff was giving it. The last day, Saturday night, there was a guru. He gave a speech, and at the end, he said, I'm going to give everybody a healing. Well, 500 people were in the room, and he said he was going to give every single person a healing. How's he going to do that? So close your eyes. So we all close our eyes. I closed my eyes, but I'm an anxious person, so I immediately opened them. There was one of his spirit bodies next to every single person in the room, and we were 500 people. He duplicated himself 500 times. And I went, oh my God, I want to do that. Well, I'm already doing it. I have probably at this point hundreds of my followers who tell me that when they go in for surgery, or they wake up in the middle of the night, or they have a crisis, I show up. My spirit body shows up. I'm not a saint. I am very intended on helping a lot of people. Okay. So when I started finding out about black magic, and it is not such an easy thing to clear, and I learned to clear it, I charge $500 for black magic, but you may have several spells on you, not just one. So multiply that. And as I tell people, most people do not have one spell, one piece of black magic. Because unfortunately, if somebody does black magic on you, that spell changes your vibration. So you're going to draw to you more spells, more black magic. So most people have at least two, which means that you would have to pay me $1,000 to clear you, which is just fine. A lot of people don't have that. And a lot of my followers don't have that. So I said to them, I promise that I am going to try to figure out how to teach you to do this. I'm not able to do that at this point because it took me a lot to gain the skills that I have, which included a space of time, weeks, months, I have no way, in a cave. People aren't going to do that. But I thought, how do I make this to where it's more affordable for a lot more people? And I finally decided to do an experiment, which I finished last week. And I got 10 people to send me their photographs, full body. And I analyzed it and sketched, and everyone except for one person had black magic, which I kind of knew. And then I put all the files, the 10 files, one on top of the other. And I went, I want to purify rather than going to each sketch and purifying the 3, 4, 5 spells they had on them. I put the files in a group, put it on a desk, and then I said, please God help me with my intention to purify this. And then I did what I do for purifying. And then I went back without looking at my original analysis, my sketches. I had a second picture of each one and I sketched it to see what I would find. I was able to clear all the black magic on all of them except one person who had, and she gave me permission to say this, who had a black magic, which is where they take a rope in the other dimensions and they tied her ankles together. I don't know if it was her ankles or knees. And whereas it wasn't a dark line that I sketched, it was dotted. So I had half taken off that black magic, which I had never seen that before. And I knew that inside of this particular person, she must have an intention not to move. And I thought, she's got to be an earth sign, Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus, or somebody that does not like change. So I contacted her and I said, listen, I wasn't able to take it all off, but I think maybe you're a very conservative person. You don't like to move. You don't like change. And she said, you're right. She was a Virgo. They really don't like change. She said, I don't like change. So the reason I was not able to fully release that spell was because of her intention, which she was aware. It wasn't just subconscious and was associated with her astrological sign. I wasn't able to clear it totally because of her intentions. So why am I saying this now? Because if I did 10, I can do 20. If I do 20, I can do 200. If I do 200, I can do 2,000. But I am a human being. You are too. That guru was a human being. Now, he may have spent some time in a cave. Oh, okay. He's still a human being, which means human beings can do this. Why am I talking about this now? Talking about myself? No, I'm talking about New York City. If we can get enough of you to dedicate some of your computer time, because you don't have to sit there, or an extra computer that you have with a sketch, a picture, a graphic of New York City, and you put on one of our mantra music, particularly the one that's called Agni, which I will put the name here, which means fire in Hinduism. If you put that on, we can start reducing the fire in New York City. Now, I am a really good psychic. Got it? I'm not a positive psychic. I'm not a negative psychic. My training is to be very good with information, not to manhandle it. It has to be accurate, or it's not worth anything. So I am not being positive. I'm being creative. I'm taking what I've learned and I'm applying it someplace else that we would have never thought to apply it in. You can start this process by taking pictures. I have a collage of my family, and I gave it to the person that does the music, actually the person that does my videos. And I said, I want you to take this collage. I want all these pictures of my family, put it into a collage, and I want you to make me a video with 6 hours of mantra music. And I put it on once or twice a day. And once or twice a day, the elements and the images in those music videos, the mantra music videos, are purifying all of my family, including me and my 2 pets. My 1 pet, because the other one I had to put to sleep. So we can do this, but we can only do this if we drop our addiction to the material dimension, the physical dimension, and we incorporate information that we already have on the planet, but that hasn't been used in this way. That's why I'm here to do this. And I've learned it through my own life. It wasn't that somebody taught me, it's something that I have observed, I've witnessed, and it works. And it's not a question of being an optimist, it's a transference of energy. We all know that. You get together with somebody who's really ill humored, very angry, and you can leave very angry. Like that phone call I had with a client. She was in a rage. It was phone, not cell phone, a phone. I'm hanging on to it, and she's screaming at what was somebody did to her. Da, 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 da. She's out of control. And all of a sudden she went, you know what? I feel a lot better. Thank you for listening. I said, fine, no problem. We hung up. 3 minutes later, I was in a rage. And I went, what the heck happened to me? Nothing changed. I didn't get any information. Then I went, ugh, something which would be a spirit full of rage that was on her and that changed her behavior transferred via phone onto me. So I went to a tree and I said, you know what? Please take this off. I did a mantra, purification of rage, and in 5 minutes it was gone. Transference of energy, transference of energy, transference of energy. We have Elon and Trump having fun. Transference of energy. We have Elon saying on X, we need some more positive content. You know what? Why don't we stop shadow banning my platform and maybe we can get some of my stuff up there, but I'm being sat on tightly. At some point, somebody's going to have to release me from whatever prison I'm in. But I'm not just in a prison from the bad guys. I'm in a prison, but the new guys, the good guys, are also not letting me move. But I'm hoping that will change soon. So transference of energy, transference of energy. Everybody in the home is fine. And then the husband comes back from work and he's irritated, he's tired, he's sweaty. And then all of a sudden the whole energy in the home shifts. As a matter of fact, there's a syndrome, I think I read about it years ago and everybody went, yeah, that's true, that babies would get very nervous like at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, what happens at that point? That's when everything changes for the adult. People are coming home from work, you got to make the meal, and even before anybody shows up, the babies are already reacting. Transference of energy. Your kid does something god awful and you go, who are you hanging out with? Transference of energy. So we need to do this now. We can't wait until a department is set up in the government or somebody sets up an institute. We don't have time for that. So today you start. Get yourself a collage, put it together, get all these pictures, put it on your printer, make up one page, and then, like my clients from out of the country that can't afford the $200 to order the video from me, put it on your big screen TV, go to YouTube, Mantrista music, do Agni, and put it on. Put it on all night. And I have, by the way, asked, because it was like, okay, so the TV, it has electricity, and that is radiation. I asked the dolphins. It worked. And I know it works. It works. Transference of energy. New York City. We all have to pitch in to get that fire down. And for that, we have to be open to a new set of belief systems based on basic laws that have nothing to do with whether we're in a modern age, prehistoric, Renaissance, whatever. It doesn't matter who's in power. These are basic laws that we thought that because we were modern and you can go ahead and have electricity in your home and air conditioning, that you can take care of the heat. Not the other dimensions. If the air conditioner is 220, upwards in 220, which it does, you're getting radiation there. So do not sleep with your head on a wall where on the other side of the wall there is any electrical appliance that's big enough to require 220 electricity. Your head on the wall, and then you're an outside wall, and your pool pump is there. Your air conditioning is there. Your smart meter is there. That's really going to make you crazy. They have studies about people in California when the smart meters came in, and the amount of people that started to have the craziest nightmares. And the common factor was their head and the smart meter. The minimal distance between their head at night and the smart meter. Do it. Start practicing up. Pay attention. Do it. Start with your own family and stick in the map of New York City because it's so important for the United States. It represents so much having to do with business, which is something that is like a bottom line with the United States. We're not an agricultural country. We're a country where the center of it is business, which is fine with me. I enjoy business. I like the creativity to get into something and get creative and making it work and then actually making money off of it. It makes me, I like it. I enjoy it. And it's a foundational part of the United States. That's why all the immigrants come because of business. And they may come and end up being gardeners, but they're still looking for business and they set up gardening businesses. So we're going to stop here and we're going to use that same music that I'm recommending, the Agni music. And we are going to, tomorrow, we're going to start to post things having to do with the transition of power on the 20th when Trump takes over. I know today was an important day, and today was a day, a lot of really silly people said that it would be over for Trump. Well, you know what? It wasn't over. The day's almost over. It's not over. But just to reduce the fire, which is irritation, frustration, anger, and hatred of the people that weren't happy with the fact that he was elected or with the things that he's doing. We're going to have to address the thing with the immigrants because that is going to get out of control if it's not already. But I'm not talking about the immigrants being out of control. I'm talking about the issue and how it's handled, because it doesn't really matter how it's handled. The issue brings up a lot of fire in people. So we did this with Venezuela, and I'll give you a short recap on that. Venezuela elected a government that's not a dictatorship in August, I believe, but they made the election earlier than normal, but they couldn't have a change of government until January 10th, which I think is Friday. So too much time for people to be scheming, to be worrying. And I would get all the Venezuelans on my chats and they were, because this guy, this Maduro thing. And I go, we don't talk politics here. We do not talk politics here because I know I've been behind the scenes. And the people that are politicians laugh at people that argue about politics because that's not where the power is. Okay? So what I did with Venezuela is I gave everybody mantras so that the transition from the dictatorship to the new government, which is on Friday, that it be miraculously graceful. And I also said, you can't just let your mind wander. What are you doing? Twiddling your fingers, twiddling your thumbs between now and the 10th. You have to start anchoring the reality you want. Start anchoring what it is that you want after the 10th. Which is when the country supposedly becomes free because you have a duly elected government that's not a dictatorship. I said, don't get together at parties or with your friends. Venezuelans talk a lot, just like us Cubans. And don't get there and just start to recycle the same old hatred of somebody who did take away your freedom for 30 years. Don't do that. You're not getting any place. You're not creating. Create. Get together with your friends and say, okay, so next year, I want to do this. I want to do this. I'm going to set up this business. You should do the same thing. We're all sitting around waiting for the fistfights. No. No, 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 no. Don't wait for the fistfights. Don't wait for the arguments. Don't wait to get on X every day to see who's saying what about who. You can do that too if you want. No problem. I do it. What are you creating in this world where we have someone who supports the doing business, orderly process? What are you doing? What are you creating? How much time are you investing in positive creation and thoughts? And how much time are you spent in being happy that you're going to be able to get back at the people that did you wrong or did the United States wrong? You're responsible for the creations. We created. When Bush came in, maybe I'm being political here. I'll finish the statement. When Bush came in, and I was not happy about that. And a lot of people were not happy about that. I said, I wonder why he would come in. And then my master said, that's what people need. What did we need? Somebody that would, in one way, shape, or form, tolerate, allow, or create situations of wars to such an extent that people were horrified. But being horrified means you kind of wake up. And that's why we needed, I guess, in a row, people that would be allow war, stimulate it, create it, want it, to be so horrified we can't tolerate this anymore. In other words, for humans to react, to make it the whole situation of why do you need that problem? Why did we need these people? Why did we need all these, forget the word bad, why did we need all these people doing stuff that seems to go against the American dream and what Americans want? Why do we have this god-awful reputation? Well, one of the reasons we have it is because that black magic 280 years ago shut down the heart of the country. Oh yeah, but that's just no, 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 no. This is a unit. It's a country. It's a unit. And the center of it, 280 years ago, was shut down. The heart was shut down. So we have done business across the world and within this country with the heart shut down. In business, what do they tell us? Leave your emotions at the door. Don't come in with your emotions. How could you say that to a human being? Leave your emotions at the door. The emotions are what separated us from animals. Black magic. I know that's hard to accept, but that's okay. I already landed it on you. So when you see things now, you're looking at your life and you're going, wonder what that's about. One of the ways you can tell if you have your heart closed, there's two things that can happen that can make you sleep at night and walk around with your hands closed. Instead of this, closed heart center. The second thing that causes people, and you can see it, especially in kids and teenagers, their hands are closed or they have their hands behind their back. They walk around with their hands behind their back. That's very uncomfortable. But a lot of people do that today, and nobody did that before. And if you look at graduating classes or those at the end of the year, you have these 20, 30, 50 kids standing up and they take a picture. You'll see how many of them have their hands behind their back. Compare that to pictures 20 years ago and 50 years ago. Why are their hands behind their back? Their heart is closed. What causes that? Why is it so much more today? Because radiation, fire, closes the heart chakra. Okay, so I expect all of you to get a picture of New York City and get it near some good vibrations and have the intention to clear that city. It's shameful that the city that represents us in the business world is called in Europe the city of hate. And this was several years ago, not now. So the mantra that you're going to be doing is, please God help us with our intention to purify the fire in New York City. Miraculously purify the fire. Give me a moment and then keep your fingers crossed that I not make any spelling mistakes. And I do know how to spell. There you go. Plus I have a, okay. One spelling mistake I caught. So let me tell you another story. My keyboard is sticky. The key that you press, I don't remember, with the bar to go for another space is not working. Today, it's not working. So I'm writing and everything is a run-on sentence. not a run-on sentence. All the words are run onto it. There's no spaces. I have to really work. And I just associated that. And I said, what happened to my keyboard? What happened to my keyboard? It's the same thing that happened to my orchid. Something happened to it. Okay, so there you go. And let's put the Agni music on, and we can do 7 or 8 minutes. And visualize New York City, and visualize yourself with a hose of really cold water, as if you were a fireman, and you're hosing down the entire city of New York. Because in the other dimensions, there is no time, there's no measurements. So New York City, you can visualize it as big as it is, or you can visualize it this size, and you're there with a hose and you're hosing it down. Or it's this size and you put a big ice cube on top of it. Because there are no measurements of that, of that nature in the other dimensions. So see yourself working actively with the visualization and putting out the fire. Put New York City in an igloo, put it under the cascading water in the video, become a fireman, and hose it down with cold water. We can do this. Here we go. We did 7 minutes. It goes by so quick, doesn't it? This is the link for the music, 8 hours long, and it has a graphic of the world. So the whole world will be getting cooled down. And then if you put on top of it uh, a map of New York or a picture of New York City, it will be receiving a purification with the element of water to reduce the element of fire in New York City. I have been telling the mantristas for several years, don't send your kid to school full of fire. Well, what does that mean? What that means is you need to make sure that they go out in nature and they go to the beach, and you need to make sure that they don't sleep with their cell phones or with the computers on their body, and that you use our music or somebody else's music that does the same thing, that has the same tones and frequencies, etc., so that your child does not, so that the elements in your child are kind of balanced. Because if you send your child out into the world with too much fire element in their aura, law of attraction, which we all believe in at this point, thank God, your child is going to attract minimally bullying, which is an excess of the fire element. So don't send your kid out into the world with an excess of the fire element. Okay? We'll see you again. And thank you.